Okay. Hi, everyone. The title of this talk is Make AI Speak Computer. So my name is Cameron Pfiffer. That's my handle. You can go find, we can share details later. But I work at this company called dottxt. There's some disagreement about how to pronounce this, but whatever. It's the file extension. And we make Outlines. Outlines is an open source package that lets you do structured text generation. And structured text generation, and Outline specifically, is how you make AI speak computer. So Theo over here has this wonderful meme about all the crap that people do to try to get their model to output JSON. They say, please, please make it JSON, and then they try to parse it, and there's like a missing parentheses or whatever, and then you can do stuff like only output JSON, or you will be fired, or like, please, my grandmother will die, I really need just triples, right? And you don't have to do any of this crap, right? So what you can do is you can just write code the way that you already do, and Outlines will guarantee that you'll get what you asked for. So if you can ask for pedantic types, right? So here we're using Hermes. We have to use Hermes, of course, because we're here. You can specify in Outlines transformers, right? You can do VLLM, you can do llama CPP, you can do whatever. And then we just specify like standard Python classes, right? So this is going to be like an enum. We can specify cyberpunk, solarpunk, fantasy. Then we can specify a game setting that contains that. And then we have a description, right? So we'll get into what this means in just a second. Then, at the bottom line here, we're going to create a generator function. We say, please give me a generator function that will generate JSON and will give me a game setting. That's a type here. And then we just give it a prompt. And what we're going to get back is a pedantic type. That's very easy. You don't have to think. There's no language model crap that's happening that's getting in your way. Like, it's not lying to you. It's not saying certainly. It's just giving you the thing that you want because we have business to do. And so behind the scenes, you're getting this JSON, and there's a lot of technical ways that we do this, and I'll leave that for, like, we have a lot of, like, very brainy people on the team who write these incredible blog posts, but I'll talk more later at different venues about how we actually do this. But the thing I want you to take away from this talk is that Outlines is how you program with concepts. And so the way I'm going to illustrate this is we're going to do some combat. So I'm going to show us a little story that our language model wrote. So this is just some text I made, or robot made. It's called Neon Blades, a cyberpunk showdown. In a neon-drenched future, mega corporations hold power. And so this is like an overview of like kind of a plot here. There's like an AI leader. There's these two factions and mega corporations and all that stuff. And we have two characters here. We have Zara and Axel. Zara is this like mercenary, this cold-blooded money grubber. And Axel is this like hacker, left the mega corporation who wants to do some stuff. They have their own skills, and we'll talk about that. And they're going to fight. We want them to fight. And so we need to find a reason why they're fighting. And so here, Axel's just stolen something from one of the mega corporations, and the megacorp hired Zara to go kill him and get it back. All right, that's the main point. So how do we actually make all this stuff happen with Outlines, and how do we make it interesting? So we're going to specify our setting, just like before. We can specify an enum. The model must pick cyberpunk, solarpunk, fantasy, nothing else. Game setting, it has to pick one of those settings. It'll wrap it in an appropriate type. You can get nested types, nested classes, everything as far as you want to go, or more or less. There's the limit. And then you can ask it for a description too. And note that's unstructured, right? The model will describe the setting based on cyberpunk, solarpunk, and fantasy. But it's going to be contained inside of those little buckets. Then we're going to define some skills, and this is just low, medium, high. There's a modifier, +1, +2, +3. So if you've ever played any like tabletop game, very, very simple combat system here. I would love to see somebody make it more complicated. And then we're just going to wrap those skills up into attack, defense, and note that those are combat skill levels are nested types. Again, low, medium, high for attack and defense. And because these are all just like standard classes, you can define methods on those. So like attack modifier here will extract a numeric value for your modifier, +1, +2, +3, from low, medium, and high. And low, medium, and high are nice to work with because they're words that have meaning. So then we can wrap all this up in a character. And a character has a name, description, skills, health points, etc. Name and description are technically unstructured, right? They're just strings. Skills has to be that kind of like composite class that we had before. Then we're going to find some additional methods on characters. So characters can attack other characters. And the way this works is you just get some modifiers, attack modifier, defense modifier. You're each going to roll a d10 and add your respective modifiers. So I'm attacking, I get my attack modifier. They get their defense modifier. And if my roll is higher than the defender, I get to deal the difference in damage. All right, so just super simple. And then we're just going to wrap this up in a story. So this is just setting, characters, reason for battle, title of story. And you'll notice this part here. Annotated list character len 2. That means you will give me 2 characters, no more, no less. I know every single time I pass this through the language model, I will get 2 characters of the type that I described. No nonsense, because we are doing business. Because my AI is speaking computer. And so we have some convenience functions as well. I'll get into these in a second. The key one here is final story. Final story is just like someone has won the battle. How did that final battle conclude? What was like the main blow? And then what are the implications of the battle for the broader story inside of the context? So we have a little diagram here of just kind of how our types work. It's just like a bunch of nested types, right? And so this is like kind of conceptually hard to work with, but outlines just sits on top of all of these classes for you and just fills them out. So we're going to make a prompt. I'm going to kind of skip over the prompts, but the point here for the prompts is that you still have to do prompting. Doing structured text does not get you free correct answers. You still have to guide your model to understand what it is it's trying to produce. It will generate random tokens that are consistent with the structure that it is expect, but you still have to tell it exactly what you need to do. Okay? So you still talk to it, but you get a thing out that you can work with in code. So let's start this up. We just have our story generator. That just says, please give me a story. And then story equals, I now have my story. At that point, I have a setting, I have characters, I have skills, I have everything I'm going to need to program the rest of this game. You can print out the characters, and note I'm just doing story.characters, right? At the point of story, it's just a pedantic type. Every single thing in there is just code. So we can go in here and do this like combat loop. I'm going to have these characters like fight each other, just going to roll for damage, and then we'll have a language model describe what they're doing to each other, basically. And so all this loop does is, while all our characters are alive, each character is going to take turns fighting each other, and then we're going to roll for damage. So the character taking the turn gets to attack the other character. And then inside of this loop still, all we're going to do is we're going to take the previous descriptions of all the actions that have happened, right? The blow-by-blow of like, Zara attacked Axel and blah, blah, blah. And we're going to put this into a prompt. And the action prompt here is kind of a long prompt saying like, oh, okay, you have to say that like this person did 4 damage. What does 4 damage actually mean? And kind of convey it in like a dramatic battle context. And then all we do is we say, please give me a turn. And a turn is just a description of what happened inside of this turn, like physically. You did 4 damage. What does that look like in the world of the game? And then we're just going to generate it. This is where you actually call the model. And then we're just going to stick it on the end of our list of descriptions. So you get stuff like this, right? So, in both of these turns, they failed to attack each other. That's just the roll. That's just numbers that you programmed with. And then there's this other stuff happening in the language model side where it's like, Zara lunges at Axel with her cybernetic blade, but he's fast and stuff. And I used a cheat model here, so it's like not particularly interesting, but basically they're just like hacking at each other and dodging, right? That's like kind of how it works. So you can make this much more interesting. And at the end of this, they're going to run out of health. Somebody's going to die. And so you pick a winner, you pick the loser, then you make a prompt. There's a final prompt here that says, like, someone has died. This is the person that died. What do we do? And then final story just contains the wrap-up. And so we get this final moments here with a desperate dark energy crackling along the length of his cyber blade. Axel unleashed a final deadly backhand strike that connected squarely with Zara's exposed flank. I don't get that part, but whatever. Axel wins. And then this also tells you like what actually happened inside of the broader context of the world. It says Axel's victory over Zara marks him as the city's new most wanted character. So very interested to see what happens with Axel in the next round. Okay, so that's a very brief example of how you can program things like just code. Like you just write code and you can work with the language model to do way more interesting things, which is a thing I don't think we've seen people do. I want to see more like creative and interesting things. And so we're hosting a cursed outlines contest. So basically what I want to see is kind of like people adhering to the Nous standard of being very creative and interesting, and just kind of sending us like weird nightmare code where you do make language models do weird stuff. So you make stupid code, win a cool shirt. And there's our QR codes. .text. I'm Cameron Pfiffer. Thank you very much.